Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's live stream. As you can see, I'm joined by two guests tonight. We have Niall Fraser with us again.
Nice to be with you, yes.
Yep, hate speech demonstration coming up. Be good to hear from Niall again. And welcome back to David Richardson, Deputy Chairman of the Scottish Family Party. David, thanks for joining us again.
Good evening, Richard. Wow. Good evening, Niall.
Right, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got an awful lot to get our teeth into. So where should we start? Let's just start having a look back to last week.
What a great lecture this was, Richard. I'll have to tip my hat to you on this one. This was fantastic.
I think it was a very good event. It went well in Glasgow. Now, the reason I mention this is what we're going to do next is to take this on the road, if you like. We're probably going to do one in Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Inverness, Dundee, Dunbar has been suggested. So various places, basically whatever a branch chairman says, yes, come and do that on our patch, then I'll go and do that. So within the next month or two, there'll be a fairly intensive schedule of taking this around the country. So we'll publish a list soon of where we're going to go. And if you want to come in here, then do come along. Because with Humza Yousaf, there's some things that maybe can be said to a live audience that maybe might be a bit more reluctant to post on social media. So do keep your eye open for that.
Can I just say, I can't recommend this enough. I went along not knowing what to expect. I mean, this came out of left field from you, Richard, but what a fantastic lecture it was. And I challenge anyone to go and see this lecture and come out and not think that this guy is the most inept and corrupt First Minister we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I did it, I never felt like I needed to do this for any other politician, but just the volume of material to talk about Humza is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
and I left some things out. Yeah. In any case, it just couldn't fit. Even things like saying admitting he winged it during the pandemic.
Yeah, of course,
which is pretty crazy to commit that to an electronic communication device. Mm-hmm. I mean, really poor judgment.
That's very true.
That didn't even make it into the hour lecture.
No,
we're just spoiled for choice with Humza. And we've got some other things to look at to do with the SNP later on as well. So keep your eyes open for that around the country. We'd love to see you.
I think you'll get some more material before your next lecture, Richard, to squeeze in.
Yes, that's the way it's going. I mean, barely a day goes by without
something else pops up. You might need to make it 9:15 instead of 9 o'clock.
How long is it going to last? I wonder.
It's surely it's only until the next big election, and then once the defeat comes in,
to last as long as possible. Because I think the longer he's there, the more damage you'll do. Long live Humza. That's what I say.
You're right in what you're saying. Yes, it'll cause damage. It'll damage the SNP, but it'll also damage Scotland along his way as well. So it's this balance of, right, well, how much are we going to let him get away with?
Yeah,
focusing
through him, he's going to be a dead man walking, metaphorically.
Glad you put that at the end of this.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, every week is worse than the last one, more or less, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really just getting hammered on all sides. And the other thing is, as I said in the lecture, he's not up to the job. He's not a man. He's been dressed up and trained to perform the role of First Minister, but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
He's just like playing the part. And I think I said in the lecture, maybe I said in the live stream, I almost feel sorry for him sometimes, because he trots out the same lines that Nicola Sturgeon did, which obviously his advisors are telling him, this is what you have to say, just go out and say it. And Nicola Sturgeon spent years and years and it worked a treat. And Humza Yousaf goes out and says exactly the same things. Yeah. And now, the mood has turned. The mood has turned on him, very much so. Yes. Well, let's start off with the big issue of the hour, which is the hate speech legislation, which is Humza Yousaf legislation. He was Justice Secretary. He pushed it through the Parliament. He dealt with it. And now as First Minister, he is bringing it into force. So do join us. If you haven't got the message yet, let's just get the slide. Where are we? Not that one, that one.
Yeah. There it is.
Do come along in front of the Scottish Parliament, Monday, 1:30. I think there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of people there.
I think so. It's Easter Monday. It's going to be a bank holiday, surely. So I mean, there will be a lot of people not working. We're expecting a couple hundred at bare minimum. Even if it is a couple hundred, that's totally fine. We understand people got busy lives and not everyone can make it. It was quite short notice, so anyone that can make it along is more than welcome, and it'll be quite a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be closer to 500 again.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Looking at the reaction on social media, it's flying around social media, and I think it's going to be a big crowd. Just to clarify, this event is sort of hosted by Glasgow Cabby. He's the official organizer, but the family party are very much involved, and some other organizations as well. So do come along. Niall, you're giving a speech, are you not?
Yes. I don't know what sequence, where I'll be in the speech roster, but yes, I'll be making a speech. I'm sure to make it. I'll spend a lot of time on this one and make it really good, I'm sure. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to sort of rallying the troops again. This is more of a reaching hands across political divides moment for Scotland more than anything. For me, it's really coming together with, parties that you wouldn't normally see even standing shoulder to shoulder with are all standing shoulder to shoulder on this. So that's what it's about. It's not really about political point scoring. We're not looking to bolster the Scottish Family Party after the back of this. We're just looking for a wee bit of unity here in order to defeat this bill and this legislation.
Yep. Now, you said about making it like a funeral for free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how literal that's going to be on the day. I think some sort of a practical demonstration might be quite powerful, but we'll see.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I get 4 people to carry the coffin into a situation, all dressed in black. Maybe. The thing is, it is all visual. That's the only thing that people are going to get these days. I feel like I think without the visual metaphor there, the whole thing just falls flat. For some reason. I mean, it's not necessary, but at the same time, it feels like it's a necessary piece of the puzzle here. Yes, if you want to come along, if I've seen there's people in the comments already expressing saying they're going to be here, wear some black, maybe a veil, something theatrical, and we'll have a laugh with this. I even thought about rigging the coffin up so that the speakers would be coming out of the coffin as if we're talking about out the grave of Scotland almost. There's some weird and wonderful ideas floating about there that people can express themselves. More the merry.
There is an irony. Go on, sorry, Richard.
I would just say it gives the press something to put in the newspaper if there's something visual. So that'd be good. Yeah. So David.
There is an irony, of course. It's the day after Easter Sunday, which Christians regard as the day that Jesus rose from the dead. So while we're commemorating the death of free speech, hopefully this is the beginning of many people rallying around to resurrect free speech from the dead. I can't. That's not lost on me. The timing of this, and of course you can't ignore the fact that the 1st of April is a significant day as well. On the proverbial calendar. Boy.
Yeah, it's going to be rechristened in Scotland already, hasn't it? As a Humza's Hate Day.
Yeah.
Now David's going to be the well, I can want to say compere doesn't seem the right word. Don't know. Anyway, he's going to be like the host at the protest. He's going to introduce the speakers and say a little bit in between them. So that's David's role on the day. I've been doing quite a bit of organising for it. I'm actually away on the day, but there's no harm in that. There's plenty of people in the family party who can step up to the plate. So Leo Lanahan's given a speech. Gareth Kerr's given a speech. David is hosting it, and Niall's giving a speech as well. If you do come along, by the way, find someone of the family party. We'll be giving flags out, and we've got some placards as well, suits on freedom of speech themes. So do find us. So get a placard or a flag, and that will be great. I
do believe Craig Houston of Craig Houston Talks on YouTube is making a speech as well. I've offered him a spot. I think Glasgow Cabby's offered him his place as well. So
he's on the program. He's on the program. that will be that'll be good. Stuart Waiton's coming along. Now, Arthur O'Malley. If anybody heard Arthur O'Malley speaking, that's quite an experience.
Well, perhaps he can give me my funeral. He can conduct the funeral service.
Could be. Well, Arthur is lively to say the least. We've got David Scott as well. Who else? Craig Houston, Glasgow Cabby as well, etc. There's another couple I can't think of at the moment, but yeah, it's going to be a really good lineup. It's going to be a good event. Something else we're going to have practically as well. Let me see if we can reach these. I've got this at the ready, and yeah, let's go.
What's he got? What's he going to unveil here?
What has he got?
Right, I'll sort of demonstrate. We're going to get bits of yellow tape so people can.
Oh, right, okay.
Take the mouth
I like that.
And when the mouth is taped up, they can put a sticker on the tape to indicate who it is, like taping the mouth up. So I'd like to thank the SNP online store for providing me these stickers. A very efficient service, very good price.
How dare 500 you
of them.
Give money that direction?
We need to get some Scottish family party stickers, Richard. Do you remember we were in Perth outside that LGBT
yes.
Pride event, and the police were wearing Pride stickers on their lapels?
That's right.
And, Richard asked them, "Well, would you wear a Scottish family party sticker?" And they said they would. But we just didn't have any stickers available, you know. But
I wish I'd had something. That would have been a magic moment.
I don't know if you're going to touch upon it in the show, but maybe we could touch upon the fact that these rainbow lanyards have been stricken from Holyrood.
That's on my list for later.
All right, okay.
In a minute.
Be quiet now.
To say about that.
You're stealing the thunder.
Niall, so now the Daily Express, Niall, last week described you as a comedian.
Yes, so that's the second time I've noticed that.
Now, I was thinking that. I was thinking you're obviously all very amusing and entertaining.
I'm multi-talented.
But I think what's happened there is what it is. You talk about Scottish government policy quite a lot. Mm-hmm. People just assume that you must be a comedian. Who writes your material for you? Well, the Scottish government, actually.
Yeah. That's very, very true. I don't know why I've been labelled a comedian. That's the second time from the Scottish Daily Express. I hope maybe it's maybe they're looking out for me in this new hate crime law. Maybe they're trying to tone it down. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw my little video I made about the hate speech legislation, saying that Nazis love it. Nazis love hate speech laws because they had them in Germany while Hitler was rising to power. And what they achieved was they arrested lots of Nazis. They sent them to prison for hate speech. And what it did is got them lots of attention, turned them into martyrs. And Hitler could go around saying, they're trying to shut me up because I'm trying to tell the truth. That's why they're trying to silence me. And it just helped them. It was a massive boost to them. So Hitler's love hate crime legislation. And it will happen in Scotland as well. Some people will deliberately say things that are genuinely way out of order. We might not think they should be a crime, but they are genuinely way out of order, and it will get publicity for them. So we might end up in the situation where we're continuing to say our very sensible, moderate, and respectful things, but the headlines will be hogged by the people who just go way over the top and end up prosecuted.
I think there's something we need to avoid on April 1st, and that is I'm sure there'll be a slew of people out there looking to be the first one convicted of a hate crime. And this is a problem. So people are going to say the most outrageous, outlandish things on April 1st, and it's going to end up like a race to the bottom. And really, people need to think twice about this. It is a race to the bottom, Richard. You mentioned it in your video a few days ago. It's like people are going to capitalize on the infamy and make it their thing. So let's not allow people to do that.
I would say I would love it. I mean, if they come and arrest me and like drag me off in a police van, then that's the most brilliant week ever for the family party.
Likewise, me or David or anyone else.
Huge sympathy for us. Just a dream come true. But we're not going to say anything out of order for that. I mean, they might come for us in any case. I mean, who knows? It's not impossible. I well, who knows? Maybe one of us will get convicted. But it's not impossible. We might have, a knock on the door and a bit of a chat. On that theme, actually, Murdo Fraser,
yes,
has been in the news because he's been recorded for a hate incident because he said bisexuality, non-binary was like identifying as a cat or something.
Yes.
So recorded as a hate incident. Now, I've got a hate incident against my name as well with Police Scotland. And I just thought I'd get it up here to have a look at.
Oh,
Here we are. This is what Police Scotland holds on me.
Okay.
So concern report, adult concern, child concern, hate concern. Sounds pretty,
a hate concern.
Yep.
So yeah. Oh.
What a badge of honor.
They're reporting a hateful video posted by a school teacher who teaches in their son's school. Right, so the hateful video was one where Ruth Davidson had her child, and she said, basically, I'm a lesbian. We've had this child with, artificial insemination, sperm donor, whatever. I encourage lots of other people to do the same. And I made my video saying, well, I disagree. I think children need their mum and a dad, ideally. So I don't think this is good. I'm saying that. So that was reported as a hateful video. Richard Lucas is the leader of a political party that he started named the Scottish Family Party. He posts regularly on Facebook and YouTube. The video in question is called Ruth Davidson and Fatherless Children. The video is 15 minutes long. In the video, Lucas discusses gay marriage. No, he doesn't. Adopted children. No, not really. States that these children are at a higher risk of mental health issues. No, I didn't talk about that. Suicide had been sexually abused. No, it was children of same-sex parents. So the police watched the video and didn't understand it. But let's take it from there. Let's move on. Right. Look at the bottom here.
This is awful. Wow.
Look at the bottom there. Consent given to share. And shared as the incident relates to a teacher within the education establishment that the child attends. The child, which child? Just the child who happened to be the son of the person who complained. So the child's got no connection with it. So the person who complained was the mother of the lesbian mother of a boy in the school where I taught. But it had nothing to do with the boy at all. So the mother reported to the police. She also lied about a few things when she reported to the police, but that's a different story.
Can we go back? Sorry, just to point someone out. So just look at what's happening here, right? Somebody's made a complaint about you, Richard.
Yeah.
Right, and then this guy, this PC, has had to take a note of it.
Yeah.
Right. He's had to sit down. He's had to watch your entire 15-minute video.
Yeah.
And then note, although the narrative could be offensive, no criminality identified at this time. How much police time is going to be devoted to this? This is insane.
Well,
and then I complained about it.
This is before the implementation comes on April 1st.
Yeah.
May I add?
Yeah.
And I complained about it as well. So that would have taken another few dozen hours of them.
Yeah.
As well. So notice the narrative could be offensive. That's the official view of Police Scotland.
Oh, really?
Could be offensive.
Well, this is this one PC. Really?
Yeah. No criminality identified at this time. That makes it sound like, well, we didn't get him this time. Obviously, it's almost an apology to the person.
Well, no, maybe he needs a second opinion on the video. Maybe it's like doctors try to diagnose something. They need a second opinion.
It's almost an apology to the person complaining. It's like, really sorry we didn't get him this time, but hopefully next time we'll find criminality.
Well, this is now, I mean, it says could be offensive, but it's now the fact they're saying that anything offensive is going to be criminalized.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's the person reporting it. No, not criminalized. For it to be a hate incident, they'll just record anything. Yeah. They'll just record anything as a hate incident. Yeah. So hate concern, sexual orientation. So they say there's a concern that I hate people on the basis of their sexual orientation because I said children need their mum and a dad ideally.
No way. Right, so they've viewed this, right? The hate concern, sexual orientation, the nature and concern, that's a hate incident. Has consent been given to share? Yes. So this is a PC. This person, name has been blacked to, has viewed the YouTube video and perceived it to be hateful towards gay people.
That might be the reporter. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. It might be the person who reported it.
Right, okay.
But has consent been given to share? Yes. So they've been given permission to pass this information on to someone else. Who do you think they pass it on to? Me? No. Let's carry on with the story. Right, the perpetrator. So I am, on the police record, I am the perpetrator of this hate incident. So the parents were advised. Information shared with others. Adults' behavior is having or may have an impact on the well-being of a child.
It's terrible.
But this child got nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Yeah. This is a parent that has complained on behalf of someone else.
What the person complaining did, actually, I've only just remembered this now. They went to the police and said, our son watched it and was very upset. I mean, many primary school children watch our YouTube channel, I'm sure, in order to get upset by it. I mean, transparently, just a sort of vindictive, dishonest report, but it was enough for the police. And then, that's it, right. But then what did they do with it? They sent it to Edinburgh Social Work Department, and Edinburgh Social Work Department sent it to the school where I was working. So the school where I was working, the headmaster, whoever, would have opened the envelope, Police Scotland hate report concern.
Wow.
Perpetrator Richard Lucas. Hate towards people to gay people, And they never told me. I knew nothing about it at all. I only discovered it existed months later by accident. One of the senior staff in the school just like mentioned it in passing, probably assuming I knew about it. And I was like, "Whoa, hang on a minute! What are you talking about?"
I know this might be a bit of an annoying question, Richard, but obviously I know that you've just been through a legal situation with the school. Do you think that this information may have played a part in people's perception of the situation? You know, I mean, if it's out, if you don't have knowledge of it,
if you imagine you're a head teacher, imagine you're a head teacher in a school, and you get one of those coming through. That
you're going to have
a
preconceived notion of the person built up in your head before you've even addressed this person, because of the, like you said, Police Scotland. This must be official.
I mean, your career's over, really, isn't it? Police Scotland sends one of those. So all of you out there, Police Scotland might have sent one of these to your employer, and you knew nothing about it.
It makes you wonder what we don't know about, doesn't it? It might even explain quite a bit the way that we're sidelined and ignored at times, you know, as well.
So I complained about it to Police Scotland. My complaint, I had a bit of legal help with it as well. My complaint letter was a bit like Murdo Fraser's, and they basically replied saying, we decided we needed to pass it on to social work, and it's social work who passed it to the school. So it's like shifting the blame a little bit. I think I complained to social work as well, and they just you just lose the will to keep at it because you know you're not going to get anywhere. So they basically stuck to the guns with it. So my story, I think, is much more serious than Murdo Fraser's because they sent it to my employer without telling me, and I think that is an absolute outrage that goes on.
I mean, I dread to think what the police are harbouring on me in terms of hate incidents. I mean, we've orchestrated to Sandyford. I mean, I've made numerous videos. It must be an absolute dossier, Richard.
Yeah, you can ask them. Just do a subject access request.
I might.
And they have to give you the whole lot.
Do they really?
Yeah. I'd recommend
within 30
anyone,
days. Within 30 days.
Is that for freedom of information request? Is it?
Subject access.
It's under that type of law, but it's called a subject access request, and it relates to information about yourself. And they have to just basically give you everything that they're holding on file about you personally. So I think if you've got any sort of public profile or any sort of public activity related to controversial issues, I would recommend you do that.
Wow.
Do a subject access request and just see what comes back. I actually do one periodically just to see if anything's added onto the list.
Everything new.
Well, it hasn't.
I'm writing that down.
What some people have found as well is you get these hate incidents, and then, when they do like a criminal records check, let's say you want to be a social worker, say, you do your criminal records check for working with vulnerable people. Do they check your hate incident file?
Well, you'd think that maybe this information might be available in the likes of an enhanced disclosure check, or, why is this information being held if it's not being used in some capacity?
Well, Humza says it's to monitor how much hate there is out there in society. If it's to monitor how much hate, all they need to record is one hateful video made. That's all they need for this. They don't need to record that Richard Lucas is the perpetrator. They could just keep track. They could just count up the numbers, which is completely pointless. But I'm just pointing out that there is no need to keep the information about individuals if their sole purpose of this is to be just to be monitoring what's going on in society.
Well, let's not beat around the bush. It's going to be used to guide policy in the future. This information. We've had a so-called spike in hate near the Aberdeenshire area. Let's send the hate squad. And it's so farcical.
Or basically, it'll be since we had that hate reporting center in the mosque, there's been an increase in Islamophobic comments. Since the Equality Network had a massive publicity drive to encourage people to report hate crimes, there's been an increase in hate crimes, homophobic hate crimes. It becomes an arms race. Each group is desperate to get as many reports as it can. They encourage their followers to do it.
It's the who can wield the much victimhood race, the victimhood Olympics for these protected classes. This will be actually interesting to work out who is the most protected class.
But they're going to be competing. They'll be comparing notes at the end of every year, and they'll try and outdo each other in the Grand Depression Olympics, as you say. I've forgotten about my hate incident. I pulled it out today and had a look. I'd forgotten some of the details about it, but it was quite remarkable. Just a reminder about that before we finish. They existed in England until not very long ago at all. Only a year or two ago, police in England changed their guidance and they don't record them anymore. But for most of the time of the Conservative government, they did. In fact, I would say they were introduced under the Conservative government. I'd be pretty confident. And they continued under the Conservative government until quite recently. But in Scotland, of course, there's no sign of change at all. They're digging their heels in and keeping going with it. So, let's do point out any comments to bring up.
I like David 14's comment. Good evening. Yes, the blasphemy law through the back door. Yes, of course it is. This is what everyone can really see. Let's take it back to the end of the Enlightenment, or the start of the Enlightenment. What started the Enlightenment was a drunken guy in Edinburgh. I think it was like 1290 or 1297. He's a drunken guy in it, and he goes on a rant about the church. Oh, the church is this and that. They decide that from his rant, we're going to hang him, actually. Right? So for his rant, he then gets taken down to Galilee and hung. So he's the last guy that got hung in Scotland, I believe. And he was, that's just for his drunken rant. And here we go again. Although it's not extreme as being hanged, but 7 years in prison, it's comparable at least. And this is where we are again, 700 years on, having learned nothing.
Yeah. So that's right. Let's move on from that topic for a little while. Right, I've got a nice video to watch. Here's a clip of our education secretary responding to teachers saying that they're scared to go to school and schools are a war zone and it's just appalling. Listen to the answer to this.
Area. Okay. We should look at the national.
That's fine. Let me tell you what happened when we ran this story earlier this week across BBC Scotland. We were completely overwhelmed with responses from teachers, from school staff, from parents, from right across the country saying, if anything, it's worse than you're hearing, and the situation is out of control. Now, you told me at the start of this interview that teachers absolutely should feel safe in the classroom, and violent and abusive behaviour in the classroom is unacceptable. Let me just put it to you that they don't feel safe. They're, in some cases, holding hands as they go into school because they're terrified of what they describe as lawless classrooms. I mean, are you shocked to hear that?
I think we need to be a bit careful on some of our language here, Martin.
Well, it's testimony. It's testimony.
I understand that's anecdotal testimony, but we need to not demonise our young people. We do recognise the challenge very much so, which is why I've taken so many different actions throughout the course of last year, and why I'm working with COSLA on this national action plan. But we need to be careful that, inappropriate behaviour does not go unchallenged, but we shouldn't write off our young people as consistently poorly behaved or violent when the data suggests that most children are well behaved.
Well, should we ignore reports like this? Because it's the third such report that's delivered the same findings, and the teachers say nothing has happened.
Martin, again, can I just suggest that we are very careful with our use of language here, and in actual fact, the EIS national publication on their...
How about that? I mean,
wow. Just wow.
The culture is consequences. There's no no one's bad, no one's naughty, no one's to get disciplined. It's a free for all, an absolute free for all. The teachers, I don't know how they do it. They do a job with one leg and one arm tied behind their back and one eye poked out. How on earth can they do a job when they're just completely maimed by their bosses and the culture of the whole thing?
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Never mind. Clearly, there's an epidemic of violence in the schools. Clearly, we've seen almost full-scale riots in high schools in the Glasgow area. So the situation's beyond critical for her to say, "Whoa, we need to watch the language here." Whoa, slow down. There's not about. We need to watch the language, guys. Slow down. Mm-hmm. This is her pulling the brakes on her own ineptitude there. Hold on. Let's watch the language. So, this namby-pamby is like attitude is what led us in here in the first place. And as long as it continues, it'll just this violent tendency is just going to tick over. More teachers are going to get injured. Combine that. I mean, I liked what you're saying, Richard. David. The teachers are so embattled. They're so embattled at the moment. They've got one arm tied behind their back. They've got all this distraction in the classroom as well with their phones. They can't win. The teachers can't win at the moment. And it's probably the worst time in Scottish history to be a teacher, I can imagine.
Yeah.
She
may as well have said that. She may as well have just said, I've got no idea whatsoever to do about it, so I'm just going to try and ignore it. I mean, there's just no logic to it. Saying, they're not all bad. No one suggested anything remotely like that. Her answer is just totally illogical. It doesn't respond to the question in any way at all. But as you said before, now someone's going to be killed. Some teacher deaths, I think, are attributable to the stress of facing badly behaved pupils. But
I'll say it again, Richard. That's what's going to take for Scotland to wake up. That one of these days a pupil is going to get killed in a Scottish school, and that's when people are going to say, "That's it, enough's enough." I said it's all going to be on videotape. This is the thing. This is this mentality, this culture they're living through the now. It needs to be rooted out. It needs to be taken out immediately, or else this will happen. There needs to be measures put in place now. Yesterday.
Yeah. But of course, Richard, you say it so often. We go down this route. We allow this culture to get a grip. We see the results of it, which is just carnage. And then we say to ourselves, right, surely the sensible thing now is to back off, is to go into reverse. But then the mentality kicks in. No, the problem is, the reason why we're not getting the results we've been looking for is we've not gone far enough.
Yeah.
So they then push on. They then crack on to an even, just, I'm afraid the worst is yet to come. And like you said,
I fear you're right. I fear you're right. We've got an educational establishment that is incapable of changing direction because its philosophy is so ingrained, there's total wall-to-wall groupthink, that no matter what happens, they'll think we need to go further in the direction we're going. And the reason it's not working is it's the Tory government in Westminster, or it's poverty, or whatever. Yeah. There'll always be some other reason.
Externals.
I mean, the other thing that Humza Yousaf came up with recently, the SNP in any case, there's a debate in the Parliament about bad behaviour in schools. And the SNP was saying it's misogyny. We've got to tackle male attitudes to women. It's a symptom of sexism in society. So that's where we really need to focus our efforts. I mean that's like delusional. Yeah. I mean, it's almost funny, but it's the situation is just appalling, and lots of kids are just miserable, and lots of teachers are just miserable. And when your educational standards go down in a nation, your wealth goes down as well. That's one of the very important aspects of maintaining a prosperous nation, is to maintain a well-educated workforce.
1 week comment.
It's going downhill.
Yes, you can say that again, Richard. Just 1 week comment for Bluebear there. Wakey. That's exactly what we need to wake up, guys. This is
I know.
Before a pupil's killed, before a teacher's killed, before something catastrophic happens in the school. It might not be your kid, but it's someone else's kid.
A river without a bank or banks is a swamp, and that's what schools are. They are a pure swamp. There's no discipline. There's nothing bringing folk to account. It's a free for all, and it's not only that. What we also be seeing go through the roof: mental health issues in kids, because kids love to be told what they need to do next. They like the boundaries. They like the banks. They thrive on that. They know where they stand. Then you see. But where there's no one knows, there's no consequences or anything. It's just there's no limit.
It really frustrates me because when I was teaching, where we'd maybe be 10 years ago or more, I don't know, it was a time when restorative practices were the latest trend, and Education Scotland was publishing its training resources. And the school I was in, we did the training, and I went through it, and I just said, this is totally wrong. This is misguided. It doesn't make sense. And it's wrong. This is not going to work out well. And I actually wrote an essay on it, quite a substantial essay on it, really pulling it to bits from all different angles, explaining this is not right. This is why this is not going to work. This is why it's wrong. And basically just the total lack of interest in it. No one was remotely interested in it. I sent it to Liz Smith. This is before the Family Project. I sent it to Liz Smith, who was the Conservative education spokeswoman at the time. I said, right, the serious issue, open goal for you, Conservatives, here you are. And she replied saying, yes, I pretty well agree with you on everything. But then the Conservatives never did anything when all these things are coming in. They just go with the flow. But what we need is it's like with the named person scheme. We need people like us who, the very moment something's introduced, we can say, we can see what's wrong with that. That's not going to work. This needs to stop.
And why is that, Richard? And why is it? What is that? It's the ability to think for yourself.
Yeah,
that's all that it takes.
Sucked into the group thing. They're slightly different from the others, but I think just being in that environment of the Parliament and the media environment, they just get sucked into the groupthink.
Yeah,
and they become so timid. Yeah. Once there's a head of steam against something, they'll maybe tag along behind and say, "Oh, we sort of agree with this."
With that.
Well. But they're never at the forefront saying, "I mean, right, that's the thing that's wrong. We can see what's wrong with that. Let's sort it out."
Well, I mean, case in point being this funeral for free speech we've got coming up. Right? If the Tories had a thinking head on their shoulders, they would have been pulling off what I've been pulling off, or what we've been doing in the background. And yet all the stunts come after we've already forged the way for them.
Yeah,
which gives them no credibility.
No. Well, they went along with the hate speech. If you watch the committees, when it was going through the Parliament, the Conservatives didn't oppose it. They voted against it at the end, but it was really bizarre because a lot of them have been right behind it. They might say, we need to tweak this detail. But that's the Conservatives. They like to give the impression that they're the ones against something once they think there's a head of steam opposing it. But until then, they just sort of go with the flow and fit in and don't rock the boat too much. But anyway, talking to the Parliament, so you mentioned this earlier on, Niall. Now, just to clarify the story isn't the parliamentary staff have been banned from wearing rainbow lanyards. The full story is they've been banned from wearing any personal symbols that communicate any sort of allegiance or viewpoint on anything. And I was quite surprised such a sensible thing came out of the Parliament. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it must have been a mistake, Richard. Someone's went catastrophically wrong.
Mm-hmm. I've complained about the once, I think. I can't remember the details. I might even have said, can I be served by someone without a rainbow lanyard? Because they virtually all did. But I've certainly made comments at the desk in the nicest possible way. But I've certainly commented on it. I was staggered that they did that. But they just need to sort out the shop and the display boards now. And they'll have a politically neutral space in the public area of the Parliament. Because their display boards are appalling. I mean, they're just pushing government ideology. And the shop, again, will have stands of books which are pushing the sort of SNP.
Maybe it's got Nicola Sturgeon's books in there as well.
What, sorry?
Maybe it's got Nicola Sturgeon's books and stuff in there you can buy.
I'm sure it has.
I'm sure it has.
Without a doubt. I've commented on that in the bookshop as well. Again, I mean, the person serving behind the till has probably got nothing to do with it, but I have commented on it. They had a huge section of books for girls. Girls can do anything. Girls are great. Girls are heroes. So I said to them, have you got any books for boys? And she said, the rest of the books are for boys. I said, they're not. The rest of the books are for adults. Have you got any books specifically for boys? No. Well, I think she actually said, why would we do that? Why would we do that? As if no, it does not compute. Does she think boys don't read or something? Or I don't know. So. Anyway, it's step in the right direction.
Take a few copies of Christians in Politics and pop them on the shelf there.
How long would they last? How long would they last?
They sold it in minutes, Richard.
I think they would. Yeah.
Right, just
well, just briefly on the Rangers, are we going on? Are we moving on for the rainbow lanyard situation? I just wanted to point out. I mean, Alex Cole-Hamilton and a lot of these other MSPs had an absolute mental fit over the fact they're not allowed to wear these rainbow lanyards. Even Alex Cole-Hamilton going so far as to compare it to World War II. You will not believe this, Richard, David. He's, I can't wear my lanyard. Oh, it's the same as World War II.
It wasn't even his. He can still wear his. It's the staff. I think the MSPs. Well, they might not be allowed to. I don't know, but it's the parliamentary staff in particular.
This is a great comment. We'll come to that after this. But what my assessment of the situation is. These guys have lost their ability to virtue signal. That's all that it is. Oh no, I can't virtue signal anymore. That's all they're crying.
Yes.
Yeah. I went to the Parliament once with Phil Tanzer, our man up in Durness, and he had quite a conversation with them about the lanyard. I wonder if that tipped them over the edge. People thought we don't want to face one of those again. Right, good question
Dr.
here.
Colin Morrison, yes.
For those of you who don't know, Dr. Colin Morrison is the gentleman who wrote his PhD dissertation. Well, one of the themes in it was breaking down the barriers between childhood and sexuality. And the Scottish government was so impressed with those credentials that it appointed him to be in charge of developing sex education resources for schools in Scotland. His little organization, I can't remember the name of it, his little organization isn't involved in the sex education resources anymore. They're run from the Sandyford Clinic building now. But Dr. Colin Morrison, the last time I checked, he was still on a thing called I think it's called the Scottish Education Committee, which is a symposium of Scottish educational experts that direct the Scottish education policy into the future. Now, the last I saw, he was still serving on. I actually wrote to the government and said, Dr. Colin Morrison, here are his views. Here are some quotations. Here's the link to his dissertation. Very concerning. And they replied saying he was appointed by a committee and we have a diversity of viewpoints. Well, if you appoint a sort of, well, what some people might think looks like a child sexuality advocate, we can certainly say that. So we can appoint a child sexuality advocate as long as it goes through a committee. And it's good to have a child sexuality advocate to give a breadth of opinion.
Yeah. In order to get a plurality of views.
Diversity is their strength, I'm sure. So where are the Scottish Conservatives on this? Again, nowhere.
Well, maybe now you've paved the way, Richard. They can come along behind it and try to suck up any political capital they can.
Yep, absolutely. That's their standard operating procedure. Right, what should we go to next? Let's see what else we've got. Let's go back to the beginning. Humza, the Man, the Myth, and the Muslim. My lecture will be going around the country, so look out for what's it called? A lecture near you. It'd be good to see you. This was interesting.
I've seen this.
Yeah,
this was horrible.
This was an email received by the 40 Days for Life Abortion Center Prayer Vigil group. It would have been in August last year, just before the vigil started. So this gentleman made this very severe threat. It was reported to the police, but they didn't manage to do anything, of course. I mean, if someone says something rude to Humza Yousaf, the police are kicking doors in and people are fined before you know it. But obviously they couldn't do anything about this. Much too difficult, even though it was from an email address. So it just sort of illustrated the fantasy world where in the Parliament they talk about these vigils harassing, they talk about being violent, even molesting women. Total fiction. Whereas the truth is that the people in the vigils get all sorts of abuse, things thrown at them, milk poured over them, spat at, things snatched off them, and threats like this. It's it's frightening, I suppose, to be able to see a group demonized within the Parliament and within the media, where it's totally divorced from reality. So they could do it to anyone. And the thing I thought about this threat, this is what happens when the media and the politicians stir up hatred against a group in society.
Precisely, Richard. What a great point. I mean, this has been stirred up in the last, 3 to 4 months, constantly in the press, constantly MSPs talking about, these shocking protesters, hassling people, hassling these young women as they're going in for abortions, hassling them, causing them hell. That's always the line, and that's always the take in the media. And these folk are standing silently by the side of the road.
Yep.
And I've seen it. And I've been victim of this sort of 180-degree directional change in terms of viewpoint. Like when it comes to the press, I mean, they can take your views and just turn it 180 degrees and blast it in the media. And yet you don't see any other side. It's just really shocking. And this, when I read this, I couldn't believe this. I mean that's a clear-cut threat to life, right?
That's just.
With the Parliament and the media, they could do it to anyone. They could do it to any group they liked. If they chose a group that they wanted to demonize, if you get some people that make up stories about their experiences of them, it can happen to any group they decide to turn on. Anyway, so that was that's an illustration. What have we got? Someone asked where the protest was. In front of the Scottish Parliament. Where else? So 1:30 the 1st of April. I think there's going to be a massive crowd there. If you could get there a bit early so you can get your tape to go over your mouth, let's get some great photographs for the press. It's going to be really good. A very lively and powerful event, I think. That was a nice little illustration of his funeral.
So a long way to acquire this coffin, folks. So it's going to be well used. I was going to invite J.K. Rowling to drive a nail into the coffin of free speech herself, but I just don't think we can provide the security for this. So we'll have to make do with it. And it just so happens to have a cross on it, guys. How fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, that's just a snippet. Phil Holden, our deputy leader, and I filmed a little comedy sketch for Hate Fool's Day on Monday. We'll release it on Monday. Phil's edited it in time.
Hate Fool's Day.
The basic theme of it is Phil and I are having a chat, but obviously since it's April the 1st, we have to be mindful of the new laws. So we're both very careful to only say things that would meet the approval of Humza Yousaf. But I won't say any more than that. But look out for that on Monday. That should be published. So that was part of the setup.
Brilliant
For it. Now let's have a look at this. This is an interesting story. I'm sure you're aware of this story, probably. So this is back in end of November, beginning of December. I'll read you a little bit of this article. I mean, I'll say at the beginning, actually, this is about, SNP rocked by discovery of intimate texts revealing two politicians' torrid lockdown affair. At the same time, the party insisted Scots stay home. Right, two SNP politicians. I would say I know who they are. I don't suspect. I would say I know who they are. I've seen a lot of evidence. I've seen different sources of evidence. I've spoken to different people, built up the picture. I know who they are. Right, would you like me to tell you? I don't. Because this is Scotland. When these things happen in England, in Westminster, they're outed, they're in the press, people are prosecuted, breaking lockdown rules, they're gone, they resign. But this is Scotland.
Yeah.
Scotland's different. And you come across things in the newspaper, the same with Nicola Sturgeon. They would say, we can't report because of legal restrictions. And, let's have a look at this article. Shall we? I'll read it out. Two SNP politicians were caught having a torrid affair during lockdown after intimate text messages were uncovered on a mobile phone. Documentary evidence. The bombshell revelations swept through Holyrood today as details of the extramarital fling between two politicians began to emerge. The secret relationship is said to have carried on during the COVID pandemic in 2020, when the SNP forced the rest of the country to stay at home under tough lockdown restrictions. Right, that's pretty serious stuff, isn't it? I mean, is that almost like bring the government down? I mean, it's very...
Well, it depends on who these people were.
Certainly
the people involved. Yeah, depends
the
on
people
who
involved. I mean, they would be done for, wouldn't they? You'd expect they'd be resigned.
No, because this again, just speaking towards the SNP. I mean, they just roll from scandal to scandal. We know that the SNP party is basically a wife swapping party. It's there's the bowling car keys as soon as you enter party HQ. I mean, this seems to be the way of it. I mean, it would be another scandal, but I don't think it would be anything resignation worthy. No, for what we've seen for the SNP in the past.
But then the lockdown aspect?
It did
for Matt Hancock, didn't it?
Yes,
I think so.
It ended up ruining Boris as well.
And it was a police matter. That was Westminster. This is Scotland special. Because in Scotland, the politicians have extra layers of protection. Seemingly through the legal system. That somehow or other, they manage to cover things up much better than other parts of the country. And I'm sure they're delighted. Anyway, let's carry on with the report. The pair were caught cheating when steamy text exchanges between them were discovered on a mobile device. One devastated spouse told the Mail that the clandestine trysts had wrecked his marriage. So that's the woman's husband, now ex-husband, was saying that. So the woman's ex-husband has spoken to the Daily Mail. It's been reported in the Daily Express as well and in the Daily Record. So he's said that this wrecked his marriage. This affair took place and it wrecked his marriage. But he says, he's thought long and hard about going public about it, but I feel I can't. I am fearful about the repercussions if I did. I have to protect my family at all costs. So we've got a man here with information of the utmost sensitivity and potentially explosive for the SNP, and he's frightened to say so. What sort of country are we living in here? He's frightened to say. frightened about repercussions. It's also been reported in the media that this man, now the ex-husband of one of the politicians, of the woman, that he had a visit at his house by people who basically were there, let's say, to discourage him from taking this matter and making it more public. And I also understand that that visit to his house became the police were called to it because it became quite a tense encounter, to say the least, and it ended up with the police coming to it. But it was successful. They've quietened him. They've quietened him down. He says, "I'm relieved that people now know that there was an affair." So he's glad that people know there's an affair, but
they don't. They know there was an affair, but not who who it is.
Yeah, it's understood the names of the people involved, details of the affair, have been discussed within the SNP.
Of course.
What have they done about it? There are fears within the party that any scandal over the affair would deal a damaging blow to the SNP's electoral hopes at the ballot box. Right. You'd think if it was like a sort of backbencher or two, that wouldn't be too big a deal, would it? But the Daily Mail seems to think this could be like an election swinging.
I mean, this just screams of gangsterism here. Like goon squads arriving at people's doors, intimidating people into silence, guys.
Yeah.
This is...
Let's go to the Daily Express now. Again, they're also saying, we can't report it can't report the names for legal reasons. It says, since the affair began, both parties have seen major advances in their careers in the SNP.
Obviously.
So a real promotion to a more, either getting elected in the first place or being some very significant promotion. But obviously we can't say who they are because they're protected. But let's go to another story now. I find it's absolutely remarkable, this sequence of stories. How about this one? Did you follow this story?
Yes, so I actually made a wee video about this.
Yes, someone's reported to the police that an SNP donor was handing over envelopes stuffed with cash to SNP officials, and that this was, well, that's bad enough as it is because they weren't declared to the Electoral Commission. The suggestion is that the SNP was just classing them as like raffle profits or something. And investigation into this is now part of the police investigation into the SNP. And it's also been reported in the media the suggestion that the man making these donations was very friendly with Humza Yousaf, and also that these donations were linked to getting a relative of the donor a plum seat to get elected for the SNP.
Yeah.
That's the suggestion being made. The police are investigating this.
Goodness me.
So you're connecting this brown envelopes with cash and envelopes, right? Okay. To basically pay for a seat. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Pay for paying for power, effectively, Richard. Is this what we are alleging here?
Yes. Yeah. So so if you want to be an MP, the SNP, if you get your rich family to give some envelopes stuffed full of cash, then that could boost your chance. That's the allegation. Let's emphasize it's an allegation, but it's something that has been reported, and the police are dealing with it. So yes, Humza Yousaf is friends with the person. So the police have appealed for information on this, and it's part of their ongoing inquiries. Well, let's now move on to a totally unrelated, possibly, story. SNP accused of rigging selection battle to allow Humza Yousaf ally Anam Kwazia, people seem to say it, to win. Now, the story here is that this was a by-election in 2021, just after the Scottish election. Now, Anam applied to be an SNP candidate for 2021, but she was unsuccessful. And apparently, the reports in the mainstream media indicate that her family wasn't very happy with that. Her family wanted to do something to make sure that she was the candidate next time, and she was. So something changed, and suddenly she was the candidate for Airdrie and Shotts, a safe seat, and she got elected. Now, another person from the SNP who thought he was in pole position, really, to be the candidate, he'd been very committed to the branch. He knew everyone. And he said, look, I'm not being immodest, but I really think if this process had been fair, I think he'd have won it. But they basically stopped him from standing, and people ended up very concerned that the process had been rigged, and ended up as the MP.
Interesting chain of events.
A very interesting chain of events. Now, like the media reporting these things, they won't make the connections that probably are in everyone's head at the moment. That they're frightened to make them because they feel they haven't quite got the right evidence.
Or perhaps they're frightened to make them because there might be people appear at their door threatening them.
Yeah. And it seems to me that, what happened with Nicola Sturgeon was, I always remember this. There was an article in the Scottish, there were rumours about Nicola Sturgeon's private life circulating at Westminster, circulating in the Scottish Parliament. And in the media, they reported there are rumours circulating about Nicola Sturgeon's private life. And then in one in the Scottish Sun, it said, but we can't tell you the details because of legal restrictions. And I read that and I thought, whoa, Scottish Sun, you can't say that. If there's an interdict, which is like the Scottish version of an injunction, if there's an interdict, you're not allowed to say there's an interdict. So I don't think you should have said that. Went back a couple of hours later to look at the same article. Lo and behold, that line had disappeared. It didn't say we're not allowed to say for legal reasons. So I conclude from that there's an interdict. There's an interdict protecting, preventing reporting of some aspects about Nicola Sturgeon. So it's very easy to imagine that the same is applying here as well. I mean, and the journalists, going back to the affair between the two politicians, the journalists in the newspapers, they know who it is. I've spoken to some of them, and they explain why we can't publicize it, but there's no dispute that they know exactly what's happened. So the situation in Scotland is where we've got what really would be massive scandals that are being kept out of the public domain. And it's
well, that's been the case for at least for the SNP's tenure, at least through Nicola Sturgeon's time. That's been the entire case. Otherwise, we maybe got rid of the SNP a lot sooner than this. These interdicts have played a huge part in maintaining the SNP as the political force in Scotland. They've played a giant role.
But part of the problem is that there's this idea it's their private life. So there's no public interest in it, so people can't know. But I mean, for a start, this affair is in lockdown, so that's a criminal matter. That's
criminal matter.
But even if it's not, I mean, let's say, for example, you had some politician like boasting about his very strong faith, but then it turns out he's acted in a way that's totally in contrast with that faith. Then if you're in the public, if you're a public figure, you shouldn't be able to get away with that. People should be able to challenge that. Or if you're someone who says, I'm really committed to, men need to treat women right. That's my big theme. That's what we need to emphasize. Then I think this needs to come out. You shouldn't be able to get away with that as a public figure. But in Scotland, it's quite remarkable the way that things can be kept out of the public domain, even when they're so widely known.
I always say that, in Scotland, anything is for sale. If it's not nailed down, it's for sale in any capacity. Yeah.
Right. Good question. Our policies explicitly address this issue and say it's a problem that needs solving. Politicians, some aspects of their private lives are relevant. Okay, like a medical diagnosis is not. People can choose whether or not they disclose a medical diagnosis. But things about the way they're acting, like if someone's discovered drunk in the gutter or taking drugs or whatever, they can't say, "Oh, it's my private life," or they're cheating on someone or whatever. There should not be any protection from that. People should know. It's and again, the opposition. I was saying earlier on, I believe there's no such thing as parliamentary privilege in the Scottish Parliament.
No, it doesn't exist.
Extraordinary.
But there is in the UK Parliament. So UK Parliament, come on, someone stand up and get on this stuff. Ask the questions. Ask the difficult questions.
Well, perhaps the new Labour MP of Rutherglen and Hamilton West might be able to use his privilege, but no, I doubt that's going to happen. No. There was one comment that I wanted to point out. It's by a Robert Irwin that was placed at 9:53, and he says that April 2nd is the latest date for public responses to the conversion therapy proposals. So this is a very important comment to highlight. Because as we were talking about previously, these 40-day for life vigils are at risk with the conversion therapy ban coming in. So these people that are silently praying by the side of the road.
So just say that's a conversion therapy is something different. It's buffer zones. That's the.
Sorry, I've went off on one there. Conversion therapy.
I think it's at midnight on the April the 2nd. I'm actually working on mine just now. My response. But I really encourage folk to get that done and get as many of these in as possible.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Someone forwards me the emails from the Green Party, and they're saying, "Come on, everyone, get your consultation filled in." But I would say, if you think of this point of view from the government's decided, because basically it's about getting at Christians. They know full well this is Christians who are going to be doing this, so they've decided Christians, their values are so bad that we're going to stop them expressing them in this way. And if we have to lock a few up, we're going to do it. But we're right, they're wrong. These problematic people need dealing with. That's their attitude. In the light of that, I would tend to say, writing letters to them, there have been hundreds and thousands of consultation responses. I think it's fine to do it, but my fear is that some people do it and then vote for the people who are going to do the thing that they're against. So people will say, vote for the SNP. And then 5 weeks later, they're saying, oh, I'm going to write to my MSP or I'm going to fill in the consultation. I'll say it was in their manifesto. They're just doing what they said. So to be honest, I think the writing and the consultations, I'm not sure how valuable it is. But whether you do that or not, I think the ultimate point the Family Party wants to make is it's a democracy. It's election day. They have the power. A lot of Christians in particular, they campaign in every way you can think of, but then take a day off on election day, vote for a party that hates them. And then the next day they start campaigning again. And trying to influence the people they've just elected. But, what that says to the politicians is, hey, don't worry about us. We may keep writing your letters and complaining, but we'll keep voting for you.
Yeah.
The letter that really gets through is, I'm never voting for you again while that's your policy. Bye-bye. It's the Scottish Family Party for me. And then they'll think, oh, right, okay. So the more they see people vote for the Scottish Family Party, that's what will really get through to them.
Yeah.
They'll start thinking, oh, maybe, this is becoming a risky strategy for us. We can only push them so far. And at the moment, I think a lot of them are thinking, well, we haven't found how far we can push them because we keep pushing further and further on. Don't worry, they keep voting for us.
Am I right in saying that a May general election now that's fading fast now? It's more likely to be October, November.
I believe October, November. I don't know what the lead-up time actually is. It's quite short. I think
6 weeks, is it? Something like that.
That's incredibly short.
6 to 8 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, I think it'll be after the summer. I think October or November. December seems desperate. And January seems desperate as well.
I think we're looking at November for an election, if I'm honest.
Yeah. On that topic, our candidate training is going great guns. I went to the first session where was about a dozen people. We've already got a lot of candidates trained, but we had about a dozen new ones there. But if you're interested in being a candidate, do get in contact with us. Email campaignmanager@scottishfamily.org. There might be another candidate training session coming along. But we must wrap things up, and obviously we will hope to see as many of you as possible in front of the Scottish Parliament on Monday, 1:30. It's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a very big turnout. So enjoy it when you go along. And Dave and Niall, I'm sure you'll do a great job.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to seeing the video. And I should have been on the top page of the BBC website. I'm sure.
Thanks for having me, Richard. It's been good to share a platform with you as well, David. And thanks for all the great comments. Lots to talk about, and I look forward to seeing everyone on Monday.
Yep. The last thing to say, I think there won't be a live stream next week, but there will be one the week after. I've got a special guest lined up for the one the week after, I think. So, yeah, that will be. I think Craig Houston's coming on. So that will be great.
Fantastic.
Right, bye, everyone, and happy Easter.